Hey, this is Tom Arnold, and you're listening to the whole podcast.
Welcome to The Hole. I am Rob Sprance.
And I'm Lori Levine.
And we are joined by the shark himself, Mark Cuban. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. It's awesome to have you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No problem. Congratulations, first of all, on 12 seasons of Shark Tank. I mean, you probably... Did you have any idea it was going to take off to this level?
Oh, hell no, man. I did it. I came on as a guest, and I figured 3 episodes, this show was over. Nobody cares about a business show. You know, it was bouncing around night for night. I mean, like, way back then, like, when they took... Desperate Housewives off the air, they would use us as a substitute.
Oh, filler,
yeah. I thought this thing has got no shot. And then bam, next thing you know, we're everywhere.
Yeah, it gets to the point where, like, because I know CNBC runs them constantly. And that, to me, I think, is almost more so than the live airings, that it's just like you put it on, and then next thing you know, it's 5 hours later. Like,
yeah, I know. Hey, I'll take it any way you can get it, but my preference is Friday night on ABC's 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Not that I'm, pushing it out there very often or anything.
No, nothing like that. Yeah, but I've watched the first episode of the new season, and you're already calling people out for just trying to take advantage of the.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, if someone's coming on just for the commercial, I'm going to rip them apart. If someone's coming on because, especially that dude, man, he had like $3.5 million in the bank.
And he's asking for like $600,000, not even like $400,000 or something like that.
I mean, like millions in the bank, in the bank. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing here? I mean, there's people who really need access to us and really need to raise money to keep their businesses alive. And your slot's being taken by him. Now, not that, he was smart to take the opportunity, but I mean, I'm not going to just let him just walk on when I just didn't think he needed to be there. He was obviously there for the commercial.
Yeah, and you could tell, especially like in the beginning, maybe not, but now at this point, I like that, some of you, because you've come from a computer background and coding, there are a lot of times where I see some of these people try to slip by this technology that you clearly know that they don't own, and you try to call them out on it. I think any of the tech people who come on need to be extra careful with you in the room for sure.
Yeah, and I like it, man. To me, that's what keeps me on my toes and is fun for me. Anybody who challenges me, I love to be challenged. I love, to have an intellectual conversation where I'm not sure, I'm learning something and maybe somebody's questioning what I think to be true. Because, you really get ahead when people question you and really challenge you. And to me, that's interesting, exciting, and fun.
And how much vetting gets done of these people beforehand or afterward? Because clearly you're not going to throw these money at people just by taking their word on it. Like,
you mean how much vetting gets done before they're on Shark Tank Friday nights on ABC?
Right, before.
Eastern, so, okay. There's like 25,000 people that apply for every season. And so they get called down. Some of them are because they're good companies. Some of them because they're just good television, that type of thing. But then once they get on, if they get a deal, we have a chance to do due diligence after the fact. Because a lot of times they'll get all excited and get all fired up, and they'll tell us they have, that the cost for their widget is $1 to make. And then when you do the due diligence, it's $1 to make if you sell 600,000 of them and you've sold 3. And so sometimes you just have to be able to separate what's real and what's not, and that protects us.
Yeah, it's smart. It makes sense. But, it's some of these people that come on, you can clearly tell they're trying to pull a fast one, or just they know.
Well, it's great press. You're not going to get press like that.
Oh, I mean, right. The first time you wear, 5 million plus 6 million people are going to see you. So where else is that going to happen? It's literally the world's best commercial, because you get to pitch on there for 10 minutes, however long, and everybody gets to hear your pitch. And whether you get a deal or not, you're going to sell a shitload of stuff. Right. I mean, and so it's worth it at the end, even if you don't get a deal.
Yes. And then on top of all of that, you then have to, in the beginning, I wasn't sure like if the infighting was real when you guys are really fighting for a deal. But I think how much of it is just mostly just the competitiveness where like you like something enough where you just want to take it away from, Kevin or someone else.
I'm sure it's like you and Lori, man. You can be best friends, but if something pisses you off, you just go hard because you know them and because you're competitive and, because you're smart. And it's the same with us, right? We're friends. We all get along for the most part. But when there's a good deal, I mean, all of us will go hard at each other. Maybe we're trying to convince the entrepreneur. Maybe I see something and I think Kevin's wrong, which happens all the time. And I'm always right when it comes to Kevin. And I got to let him know. And Kevin disagrees and we'll go back and forth. And so, yeah, any tension that you see is 100% real, nothing scripted.
But I love that I heard, Mark, that when you don't get a deal, that you are fine. You just forget it. You didn't get it, you move on, next thing.
Absolutely. It's like anything else. I mean, it's spilled, there's no reason just to cry over spilt milk. They're gone, man. It's like, yep, didn't have an interest in me. I don't have an interest in you, moving on. Because people always ask me, what's the deal that got away that you wish you would have gotten? And I can't, literally, I couldn't give you 2 or 3 of them because I forget about them. And, and it's funny because sometimes I'll turn on CNBC or ABC and see a replay. I'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember those guys because literally they're gone. I forgot about them.
Yeah, it's smart, though. That's kind of a business thing, too, is you almost have to put things behind you,
We see in one season, well, this season was a lot different, but, in a typical season, we would see 220 deals a season. And 25% of them don't even get on air. And then this season, we saw about 160, 170 of them. And so, from the start to the finish, by the time you're done, you forgot almost all of them that unless you did a deal with them. And even sometimes with those, the ones I did deal, because I did more deals this season than any other season. So I was like, I had to write them all down. Otherwise I'd forget.
So now because of COVID though, you were doing it in a different scenario. Like you went to the Venetian in Vegas and set up everything. So you guys were just in a bubble the entire time? The
whole time. The Venetian was great. I mean, even though it's an amazing resort, amazing casino, we didn't get to see any of that. So we got tested. We got escorted to our room and, with masks and the whole thing on. Got in my room and I was there. Thank God I had a little gym in there with an elliptical and everything. And I would work out, eat, work out, go to bed, wake up. Someone would knock on my door at 7:30. We had to follow a very specific path with a very specific elevator. Wow. Then we got down to our room to change. Then they took us in the makeup. The makeup artists were like in hazmat suits. Then they walked us to the set. And the whole time we were being monitored. We shot our 8 deals with an hour break for lunch, and then after that, walked up, just the reverse way. Follow the tape, the masking tape on the floor on the walls. Take my 1 elevator, go to my little room, work out, eat, sleep, do the whole thing again 19 more times. I mean, we got to do nothing. There was a period of time where I didn't even see sunlight. It was crazy. It was that strict.
Yeah, and you can tell too because like it's one of the first things I thought in the first episode, which was Friday night on ABC.
I'm trading you, Rob.
That's right, you got me. One of the first things I noticed is like, wow, Mark definitely looks more fit. Like he definitely lost some weight. So I guess it's because
I'm down about 20. I'm down about 20. Peloton and up until the pandemic, playing basketball. But now just my routine is Peloton. Maybe elliptical, and then going outside, I've got a little basketball hoop out back and just shooting hoops because that's kind of like how I clear my head. My wife does yoga, or people do whatever just to get their head straight. If I'm shooting hoops, like that's all I think about, and everything else is out the window. So that's kind of how I relax, and that helped me lose weight.
And you're a vegetarian too, right?
Yeah, went vegetarian. It's been about 2.5 years now, and I love it. Love it. Don't miss anything at all. I mean, I've got it all down pat now. I got my routine, my Alyssa's cookies in the morning, my total cereal with my Alyssa's cookies, and my strawberries, because you don't get iron when you're a vegetarian. And total cereal has the iron, but in order for your body to really utilize the iron and convert it the way it needs to, you need I use strawberries to catalyze it. I mean, I got this whole thing down to a science, and I get to eat the junk food I like anyways, and so I'm happy.
Junk food's a big deal for me. Like that's one of the areas every time. I'm a sweets guy, man. It's just really.
Hey, notice I said vegetarian, not vegan, because ice cream is king.
Oh, good.
Dairy Queen, are you kidding me?
So, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you got to where you are, because it's a great story. And what I was telling Lori beforehand even is that, I know you sold your first company. Even before that, like you had a lot of different jobs, you were getting fired left and right. But before you even started, and you started getting into computers. Now, this picture here I love, which is
wait, here's the thing you got to notice. See the poster all the way in the back?
Yes. What does that say?
Poverty, right?
Poverty sucks. Everywhere I went, right, apartment to apartment to apartment. That was my first house. Everywhere I went, I had that poster right up. Wherever I worked, whatever I did, that poster was right there. Poverty sucks. That was my motivation.
It's so great. And, you could see that this is definitely, you just got a new computer and you're showing it off. The one that used to get them in $5.
I didn't just move in. That was my first house, but I did not just move in. It's just that I'm just a lazy slob, And so,
oh, well, there's nothing you could do about that. So when you started doing coding, so what did you, Micro Solutions, what did that do exactly? What was the actual purpose of the company?
What we did, it was called a systems integrator. So I would go into a business, and help them understand how they can use not just PCs and not just software, but connecting all their PCs together into local area networks. Now it's no big deal. We connect everything with Wi-Fi. Everything just automatically connects. But back then it was a big deal and it was hard to do. And so that's what we did. We started off with small businesses, writing code. Then I got bigger businesses like Zales, the jewelry company. I helped them write an application so that instead of before I did this application, for all their inventory, like if they had 6 different Rolexes, they'd have to keep one of each Rolex in the safe so they knew what they were buying and selling, right? So I wrote an app that allowed them to take a picture of it, store a picture in a database, and then the purchasing agent or the buyer, whoever, could just bring up that picture and see all the history of the sales and all that kind of stuff. Now that seems like just common sense, easy. Back then, integrating pictures like that and video like that into a local area network for a big company was hard. And so I would do projects like that.
Yeah, most of the systems then were like AS400s and really like
I put them down. Yeah, exactly right. AS400s, AS36s, and I would use PCs just like that you can buy in a store and connect them together into a local area network and then put the software on them. So that was our specialty, doing local area network applications.
And then you sell it for $6 million, right?
Yep.
So this is your first payday. Now, for me, I'm pretty much out after that.
I was out. I was definitely out after that. I mean, $1 million of it went to the employees. I brought in a partner after I started, Martin. He got 2, I got 2, and a little bit more than that, I guess. Ended up with about 2 after taxes, and bought a lifetime pass on American Airlines, and I was out.
Nice. So, all right, but then that's not enough for you. And, it's the next thing that you sold, which was broadcast.com. In a lot of ways, I mean, back then, because I remember the site, it was really the first internet radio in its own way.
Streaming, the first streaming site, period.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the way it looked back then, I remember it was like that old, that old school, like Alta Vista kind of look to it, where you'd see the links in blue and everything.
Yep, that's all you could do. Yep.
So what makes you want to do that? And how do you just go from concept to reality, especially now all of a sudden you're trying to get other stations to give you the rights? Is it are you going out and getting those rights?
Yeah. So, I mean, so first it was like, I think we can use this new internet thing to listen to sports. I went to Indiana University, listened to Indiana sports over the internet. And then we can, go from there, and believe it or not, this was also kind of early days of satellite television and regional sports networks. And so all this thing of being able to get sports and get things out of market was brand new. It wasn't happening yet. And so we were like, okay, just like I told you, I did local and wide area networks and programming, so I understood how this stuff works. And so my buddy Todd came to me with this idea, and I'm like, okay, let me see if I can put this thing together. And in that very room that you saw me sitting programming a couple years later, we put together AudioNet, which is how broadcast.com started, went to a local radio station in Dallas and said, look, I'm going to hook up an 8-hour VCR. Every night, I'm going to pick up a VCR tape that has 8 hours of your radio programming. I'm going to bring it back to that little room with a computer I set up there, and I'm going to encode it and put it on this site called AudioNet, and we're going to see if anybody cares. Because in order to get audio streaming back then, you have to have a PC, you had to have a modem, you had
real
to have
player. You had a real player, right?
Yeah, well, no, this is even before the real player.
Oh, wow.
And so you had to have all this different stuff. And so what I would do, I went on all the chat boards, I went on to UUNet, I went everywhere, bulletin boards, and said, look, if you're interested in Dallas sports, go to the site audionet.com, download all this stuff, and let me know what you think. And bam, that shit just took off. It was like, people are like all over the world were listening to these shows from Dallas sports because they missed home but what we learned very quickly is people in the office didn't have radios or TVs. And so this was the only way that they could kill time, right? And so they would listen to sports, listen to radio. And then we started off with radio stations. Then we added CDs. Like the copyright laws were different back then. And so we could just walk into a store, buy all the CDs we wanted and put them up, and we called it our CD jukebox. And we would program radio stations. We had hundreds of internet radio stations. We would play Christmas radio all year round. We would have CD police dispatch on all year round. I mean, it was crazy, and it just blew up. And then a couple years later, we got into video, went public on the stock market. It was the biggest IPO in the history of the stock market at the time. And then Yahoo bought us, and bam. Then I really had fun.
Yeah, and Yahoo bought you for slightly more than Micro Solutions, where they gave you $5.7 billion for it.
Say that again. Say that again.
$5.7 billion.
Crazy. Now, they gave it to us in stock. And so, this was right before the internet bubble burst. And so in between, I told you I bought a lifetime pass. After I sold Micro Solutions, one of the things I did was trade stocks. And I made tens of millions of dollars doing it because I understood the technology and bought and sold technology stocks. So I had gotten a real good feel for the stock market. And so after we sold Yahoo and to Yahoo and got the Yahoo stock, I put on this thing called a collar where I sold long-term calls and bought puts and saved my ass and all the people who did the same thing that we worked with when the internet stock bubble burst. And I actually made a little bit more money, but that was a big deal. And so, selling the company was big. Hedging it and collaring it after the fact was even bigger.
So the question that I'm sure everyone asks you all the time is, right away, it's like, when I get a nice commission check at my job, I think about what I can buy. But, it's not 5.7 billion or anything close to that. So, I mean, it's bigger than winning the lottery, but I mean, you've earned it, of course, but it's still like it's
crazy. Look, I'm not going to lie. To this day, I pinch myself. I mean, it's so much motherfucking money. It's hard to even get your arms around. I mean, it's just, I try not to take it for granted, but still, I'll just shake my head at it because it's crazy. I mean, it literally is crazy. But I wasn't upset about it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can spend, $1 billion and still have 4.7 billion left. I mean, that
I don't have it all in cash, right? Right. This and that, right? Yeah. So, but I'm going to be okay no matter what.
Yeah. So then when you go ahead, what's is the Mavs the thing that you start thinking about? Because after the initial...
No, not at all. Now, the only thing I really thought about was a plane. That's what I really want. Like after my first company, I bought a lifetime pass where I got to go anywhere in American Airlines and not have to pay another nickel. I spent like $125 initially and then $250 in total. And it allowed me and anybody to go anywhere I wanted to go. So for me, that was the best because like I'd be out with a friend in Vegas or meet a new friend in LA and just say, let's go jump on American Airlines and go anywhere.
I had never even heard of this lifetime pass till I read an interview from Mark years ago. Do they still have that? No, they shut them down because everybody was taking advantage of them. They let me keep mine though because, and actually somebody who works for me now has got it because I didn't really use it. So they were still in the positive when it came to my account. But yeah, and the way I bought it was after I sold Micro Solutions, I was trashed out of my mind with my friends. And they were like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? You know, I was just like 30 years old. And I'm like, I wanted a lifetime pass in American Airlines. And so we called and they had them and I bought one. But when we sold broadcast, because of all that, I wanted a plane. I wanted to, because like my dad used to always tell me, time's the one thing you don't own and you can't give back. And the one thing that saves me time in ways you can't even imagine if you have to travel at all is a plane.
It makes sense. But that whole transaction was over the internet?
Yeah, I wanted to practice what I preach. So I got a hold of Gulfstream because I wanted a G5. Like, who doesn't want a G5?
Oh, of course, right.
and so I emailed them and I said, hook me up for a test ride. Found a pilot that would that I could hire. And I emailed them back and I'm like, let's do this. And they said, okay, we'll be out there. I'm like, no, man, I don't need to see you. Just tell me how to do it and we'll do this all online. And we'll practice what we'll preach. This will be the ultimate e-commerce deal. They're like, cool, let's go. And so we did the deal via email and then I wired in the money and it was over.
That's crazy. And so just the upkeep and the ability to have the plane ready to go at any time is probably way more than the plane could ever be.
I have no idea.
It's good enough to know
Somebody else manages that.
The ultimate flex, right? I don't know.
Do you have like a just tell me when I'm starting to go down rule with them? Like, just let me know when they're...
No, not really, man. It's just like, I mean, it sounds so sick, right? Because it is. But like I know, I see my bank accounts and my brokerage accounts and all that. And as long as they're going in the right direction, I don't really, I mean, it's not that I would stress anyways, but all good, right? It's all good.
Sure. So, all right. So when did the Mavs come into the equation? When you decide, because that is one of the ultimate, and everybody who's a fan of any team, like I'm from New York, like I wish you would buy the Knicks, but it's a whole other story. You took Porzingis from us, but whatever. It is what it is. But like, I wish you'd buy the Knicks over and over and over again. So like everybody's dream is to buy their favorite team or sports team and just, make the decisions that you would make, sitting at home yelling at the television. So like, how does that even come about? Did you find out that it was available? Did you just like...
No, I was at a game with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and it was the opening night. And I'm looking around, it's not a sellout. I'm like, we're undefeated. It's opening night. This place should be packed. Everybody should be fired up, right? I mean, we got Sean Bradley. We got Michael Finley. No one even knew who Dirk or Steve Nash were at the time. Yeah. So I'm like, God, I could do a better job than this. And it was like, bing, 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 bing. Now I can afford to put my money where my mouth is. And so I talked to a guy named Mark Aguirre, who was a former player that was working with the owner at the time, Ross Pro Jr. They connected me, and within a month, the deal was done.
Wow, was that quick, huh?
Yeah, because he expected to negotiate. I didn't care because at that point I'd done my collar on my stock, and it was cemented, but I still had some of the upside, right? So when the stock went up, the Yahoo stock went up, I still benefited some. And so like I remember one day being on the team bus with the coach, couple of the coaches, and they're like, "Why did you pay so much?" Because it was the most ever paid for a team. I'm like, Yahoo stock just went up $150 today. That paid for it.
Right.
I just wanted, I just love this. I just love basketball. I've always been a basketball junkie.
Yeah. So now you're, for the first time, you're involved. So, you get to pick your GM. You get to have a say in players. I'm sure you kind of want to pick a GM that you can leave alone. I can't imagine that's easy, especially once you have them build a team. Like it's got to be hard to.
Well, I didn't make any changes at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were awful. We had a horrible team, but I'm like, I didn't know how to hire somebody. What was I going to do? I would have had to listen to somebody else and take their advice. And, it's not like anybody really truly knows. So I was like, there's only one direction we could go, and that's up. And because we've been so bad, we got voted the worst professional sports franchise of the 90s. I'm like, okay, I can get as involved as I want because it can't get any worse. And so I dove in, and I remember meeting with the team, and I'm like, what do we need to change? And one of the guys, this guy named Gary Trent, his son Gary Trent Jr. plays for the Trailblazers now. He goes, Mark, we get into Oakland, California at 4 o'clock in the morning on a late night flight, and we're staying in hotels that don't even have room service. You want us walking through Oakland, California at 4 in the morning looking for a 7-Eleven for food? Yeah. I'm like, I get your point. And so I just immediately upgraded, started listening to the guys, and really just putting people in a position to succeed. And having Dirk get better and turn into a superstar helped as well. Nash is, the same thing. And so we just started getting better and better and better. And I looked smarter, even though I really did nothing.
Yeah, I mean, not just better and better and better. You win a championship. And
yeah, see that guy back there?
Yeah. Oh, where is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's better than the poverty sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And not just win it, but you beat the LeBron James Heat, which, that's got to be an extra sweet, You have any concerns about what's starting to happen, the trend that I see a lot with the NBA now, where one player decides to go somewhere and then rounds up, like basically builds the team. It's almost like a pickup game and says, we're all signing here or nothing's happening. Like, is anything you can do?
You worry about it a little bit, but you just got to treat your guys well. I mean, obviously now we have Luka Doncic, number 77, LD 77. We just gotta take care of our guys, and that's what I've always tried to do. And so I really haven't had a group of people leave to go to a super team. But hopefully, if you get the rep for really being great with your guys, people will want to come to us, and that's really what we're focused on. And Luka's so good and such a good guy, and he makes other players better, that hopefully will be a destination.
Yeah, I don't foresee a lot of times they pick up a team that doesn't really have much of a core to it that they do that with. And that just because you build just because you build a team of superstars doesn't mean that it plays out that way. Again, Knicks fan.
I'm a Yankees fan, so we've seen that time and time again lately.
Right. And look at the Clippers this year. It kind of fell apart. You just don't know. And we've had great teams. We had a team that won 67 games and lost in the first round. Matchups matter. Just so many things. Luck matters. You just got to, keep on grinding and try your best.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be even harder not to get so into these games, especially every guy's a sports fan. I'm a Steelers fan in football, and I'm,
How'd you become a Steelers fan?
Well, at the time that I grew up, they were winning all the Super Bowls, so they were on TV more. There was no cable. Yeah. It wasn't like, see, my family, my brother and my dad are all Jet fans, and they don't buy my excuse. They just call me a fair weather fan. But they didn't live through the 80s and 90s with the Steelers,
I grew up in Pittsburgh, so.
Oh,
I'm right there with you.
So you're a Steelers fan too, then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure you liked the beatdown on the Browns yesterday. It was always nice.
It was not a bad thing. Not a bad thing.
Nice tradition. But yeah, because I get so into the games and I have no stake in it at all. So I can only imagine, especially come playoff time, man. You must be a wreck watching these games.
Yeah, it's so nerve-wracking. I mean, every game, individual game, because I can have my impact on the team in different ways, but once they throw that jump ball up, there's nothing I can do. And so you just hope everything that you think should happen does happen, and more often than not, it doesn't. But each and every year, you try to get closer and closer and closer. So, you just do a lot of knocking on wood.
Yeah,
Mark, did you consider buying the Mets recently?
No, I did not. They asked me. Actually, A-Rod reached out to me about being part of his group. And I just did not want to get involved in baseball. And I tried to buy a baseball team back when my kids were younger. I couldn't do 162 games with my kids now. My kids are too much fun at this age. But back then, I tried to buy the Cubs and the Rangers, and Major League Baseball wouldn't let me buy a team. Would not let me buy a team.
Why is that? Just because you had a team?
Well, no, because they thought that I would be like George Steinbrenner and just raise hell. And they're probably right. I probably just would have fucked with them all day long. And so it was probably the right move.
Yeah, okay, so let's get to that, because I think you are the most fined owner in the NBA I think I've ever seen.
Are you saying I'm the finest owner in the NBA?
Yeah, I'm saying that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord. I appreciate that.
It's a combination. But yeah, we're talking about over $3 million worth of fines for criticizing the officials. And first of all, nice. But that alone probably gets you, even in the good graces of the fans, even more, just because I'll if I'm pissed off, I'm gonna say it. Who cares? If you find me, go ahead. Like, they can't
I know
do
exactly
anything.
what I'm getting into. I know when they're going to find me, and I know that it's going to have an impact on how they deal with the officials, and things change. But that's just the way things change in the NBA. Unless somebody raises hell, nothing changes, and so it's just my turn.
Yeah. And do you find that any of the complaints that you've made have turned out to change things?
Oh yeah, they tried to change a lot of things. There's some things they haven't changed, but it's never really about the refs on the court. It's more about how things are managed. They always tend to use former refs to be managers, and it just that to me that's just not a good approach to management. And so we will continue to argue until that changes, which means it'll probably cost me some more money, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah. But then I read that you do something, you match what you're being fined, and then you donate that to charity.
Yeah, every time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So there's always people yelling at me, get fined, and give money to our charity. So
we're holding up their time.
I'm only getting fined for a good cause. That's the only reason I'm getting fined.
Now you mentioned your kids, and one of the things I was thinking of beforehand was, you have to do a little extra to go out of your way to make sure that they understand when growing up that that's not how everyone's life is. You don't just get everything that you want. So how did you try to do that early on, and even throughout their lives, to kind of keep them grounded? Because it could be, as it's probably not easy.
Imagine Mark's son, a 4-year-old's like, "Daddy, call Gulfstream."
Yeah, right. Oh my God. I actually know somebody whose 6-year-old has a plane on call.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Anyways, yeah, all their kids do. But in any event, I've always had the conversation I had it with my 17-year-old daughter the other night. Look, my biggest fear after their health is them being entitled jerks. You can't take all this for granted. You're going to have to do your work. I'm not going to I'm not the kind of dad that just brings things home. I don't try to buy their favor. I'm not, here's a new toy, here's a new something, because I've been gone a week. Not like that at all. It's more like, okay, what can I do to teach you to learn things and have you earn things on your own? And between my wife and I, we've been consistent with that since they were little. You're going to have to make your own way. You're going to have to earn it. I'm not going to pull punches. I'm not going to get favors just to get you through something. You've got to make it work on your own. And a lot of that, and they're their own people. They're smart kids, and they recognize that they want to be, Alexis Cuban. They don't want to be Mark Cuban's daughter. Right. And in order to do that, they're going to have to do certain things on their own. And fortunately, so far, anyways, again, knock on wood, that's the thought they have, and that's the approach they've taken.
Yeah, that's good, because that cannot be easy.
It's easy on me. It's really harder on them. There's just certain things that they can't do, having the conversation. Look, Lex, when she started driving, or know when she's going to drink with her friends at 17. I'm like, your friends aren't going to be on the front page of the paper or be in every article that shows up on Snapchat Discover if they get arrested for being drunk. You will be.
Right.
You definitely will be. You've just got to be a little bit more careful. And I know it's not something you wanted. I know it's not something you asked for. But, there's give and take. And so you got to take the good with the bad. And, she gets upset about it sometimes, but she knows that, can't pick your parents.
Yeah, they're just waiting for her to fuck up, the press. They're just waiting.
Yeah, and she we're not in New York or LA where they're out being seen a lot, right? But you're right, man. If she makes a misstep and fucks up, she's going to get shit, and it's going to be rough on her. And fortunately, she's a real good kid. All my kids so far have been are really good kids, smart, and understand the context and circumstances. And and my wife and I have been able to have honest conversations. I mean, we don't beat around the bush, and we try to treat them like adults. Even my 11-year-old, their entire lives, we've tried to talk to them like adults, not like little kids or little babies, and not spin it and just try to be honest.
Yeah, it's impressive that you're able to do that. But I've always felt that people who are self-made and make the money, even if you do it in your 20s or 30s, you know what it's like not to have money.
Oh yeah,
and there's a huge difference between people who are born into it, in my opinion, versus the people who have earned it. Because we've all had jobs where we've worked for people who were born into money versus people who made the company themselves, and you can just see the difference in their attitude, their ability to communicate with their employees, their ability to appreciate other people.
I mean, some of them even get elected president, but we at least get to see how it turns out, right?
I'm so glad you went there. So, one of the other things too is, you're very outspoken, and I've always hoped that you would run at one point or another. I mean, do you even think about it?
I think you're thinking about it.
I did. Right. I was always apolitical. I literally would tell people I vote for the politician that'll do the least, because I don't think they could do anything right. And but then Donald Trump, who I've known forever, gets elected or runs and gets close to being elected. And that kind of freaked me out, because I'm just not a fan at all. And when that happened, then I started thinking about it. And actually, the first person to ever tell me I should run was Donald Trump. When I was talking to him. I looked at it this past time, but my family said, no, there's just no chance. You talk about having an impact on your kids, not only being away from them all the time, but just all the pressure, and anything I ever did that was a fuck up is going to be there right in their face, right? And so, being the president is not a dream of mine. Being a politician is certainly not a dream of mine. And it just wasn't the best thing for my family, so it's not going to happen.
Yeah, they take shots at you a lot, and understandably so, because it's scary to them, because you are an actual billionaire. You are a self-made billionaire. And
I don't care if they take shots at me. I mean, that's what social media is all about. People are going to mess with you, no matter who you are. They're going to mess with Lori. They're going to mess with Rob. They're going to mess with Mark, because that's what people do. They get Twitter courage or Instagram courage, whatever, right? Even in TikTok comments, people are going to mess with you. And so, it's just the nature of the beast. But I just don't want that rolling downhill onto my kids. That's not right.
Yeah,
but Ted Cruz's seat is up in 2 years, I think.
Yeah, no senator for me. Yeah, that's not going to work. No chance, Lori.
Beto came close, so I feel like
Beto did come close, man. I wish he had gotten it. And if I could help him, and I don't really know Beto. Look at my quarantine here, man. It's getting worse. And I don't know Beto at all, but I hope he takes him on again.
Yeah, and Ted Cruz took some shots at you, or in the usual passive aggressiveness for some reason, and I love the way you defended it, because they're on this whole thing that if someone kneels, I'm out and I'm not watching a game.
This Twitter fight was the best thing that I've seen. When Mark said, "That's you, Ted. That's who you are."
Yeah.
It's so easy, right? I mean, look. I don't care. Like, people can pick on what I say, and that's fine, and people can mess with me. But this guy's a state senator, and he's trying to be holier than thou, and takes this righteous position, but only for people who think like him. He's not really representing all his constituents, and he's being hypocritical about it. And that's just like, okay, look, if you're going to take those shots, if you're going to take them at me, I'm going to take them right back, because I just have fun with it. And with Twitter, it's easy, because you got 10 minutes to think about what you're going to say, write it a couple of times, and then spit it out, and just, have fun with it.
Yeah, and but your logic is right on. Like, why would you root for businesses to fail, especially in your own state? You know, like, why would you?
Thousands of jobs.
Right, and these players that they're taking shots at are representing your state. And you know, and people love them. So what I don't even think politically, I don't understand why it's.
Well, I mean, look, his point is the same as our point in the NBA was. He's saying, or against his point against the NBA was, he's saying, well, when you say Black Lives Matters, you're taking a position that not everybody agrees with. I'm like, look, we're for racial equality, right? We're for ending racism. That's not political. And yet on the flip side, you know, he starts saying what he's saying, and he's not caring about the other side of people that don't agree with him, that aren't conservative, right? And so it just doesn't make sense. It's hypocritical. You know, we can't say what we want to say, but he can say what he want to say. It's just ridiculous. And look, from my perspective, what the NBA did and our players did was phenomenal. We get to be part of a unique period in time that hopefully we can make strides towards ending racism, towards police reform, so that people, you know, Black people don't have to be afraid when they're jogging, or, you know, if they get pulled over, and any other number of things that can happen. And so, yeah, so it's worth it. And if it upsets some people, no major progress in this country or the world has ever been made where it's not been sloppy and messy at some level. You know, not everybody's going to agree with you, but I really feel strongly we're on the right side of history.
Mark, how did you make the American Airlines Arena a polling place? How does that happen? Because Governor Abbott seems so against it.
Yeah, I mean, we worked with the local judge who's in terms of Judge Jenkins, and the Dallas County Electoral Board, I think it's called. And basically they just came back to me and said,
I can help you with your everyday items.
This is Alexa.
Alexa off.
To get started.
Thank you. I love Alexa. And so they said, okay, we can do it, but, you know, who's going to pay for it? And I'm like, I'll pay for it. I don't care. You know, and so they got together a budget for me. I'm like, sure, that's no big deal. And spent the money, and they set it up. And it's, I don't know if you saw the picture that I tweeted.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's slick. It is really, really slick. You know, it wasn't I didn't design it. They did, the county election board did, and they're amazing. The volunteers that are down there are amazing. And to go down there and vote, I mean, literally, we get thousands of people a day down there, and it'll take 10 minutes.
Wow. So you're seeing more of a turnout than ever before? Like, you're seeing a lot of people online. That's great.
Especially now during a pandemic, and they're coming out.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's social distance. There's a little markers on the floor, right? So you know where to stand. Same when you go through. No one's allowed to have cameras. You get in there, you register, they give you the ballot. You walk, make a left. The only bad part is, like, the way we've got it set up, you go through the bar, the old number 7 club. And so you see the bar on one side, and then when you go out to where the ballot boxes are to put in your ballot and vote, there's some draft beer location. And the only thing that would have made it better is if we were allowed to serve alcohol.
I know, right? Well, you don't want to do that. You don't want people getting hammered and voting for Trump.
No.
It's probably not a good idea. But it's so great that you're doing that. And I see, you know, I also want to commend you too, because you go on Hannity and you go at it with him, and like, you're not afraid to go on there too. Like, you could clearly see you love confrontation, because your face just lit up when I said that too. You know, and it's good that you do that instead of just going into the safe havens, because you go on places that, you know, they're going to try to challenge you on, which some of these concepts they're challenging you on are just the most basic, you know, human common sense.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love it. It's fun, because you know what it's like to do an interview like this, right? Where it's only going to be a finite period of time.
We love you, so yeah.
You know, you're going to go there, and I don't know what questions he's going to fire at me. Not at all. And so you're trying to dance and think on your feet and be quick and come up with something snappy. And you kind of have an idea of the points you want to cover, but you don't know if you're going to be able to get them out there. And so, yeah, it's fun. I like that challenge. I don't always get it right, but it's still a lot of fun.
Well, I was watching you on Hannity and talking about the Affordable Care Act. And then Hannity was going into Trump has delivered. He built the wall. And then you were like, well, who's paying for the wall? And he was like, Mexico, through tariffs. And you're like, Trump doesn't even understand tariffs at all.
Right. Oh, it was great.
It shuts it down.
Yeah, because, I mean, look, Sean's just going to go out there and talk pro-Trump no matter what, and I know that. And so if I question him even the least bit, I'm going to win, right? Because he can't go back to the same thing over and over again. And it's easy to question Trump, and it's easy just to push it. And so, that's what I do.
Yeah, between that and what you also do is Shark Tank on Friday nights on ABC.
What time is that on, Rob, Lori?
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central.
I keep forgetting the Central time. We're East Coast. We pretend nothing.
Yeah, 8 p.m. That's all that matters.
But I did have one other Shark Tank question, two actually, that I always think about. I know you're pressed for time. I don't want to keep you forever, and we really appreciate it. I know somebody like you,
especially because he does not do meetings at all. So,
yeah,
ever.
That's great. So here's something like that always annoys me, and I wind up yelling at you and some of the other sharks, which I'm sure some people at home do, when someone takes a second to see if there's another offer, which you would have done every single time you were in the room. Right. You guys turn and just be like, nope, you're done. I'm pulling my offer. But you would do it if you were in the room. You absolutely would have done that.
Of course. But that's not the idea. We call it Shark Tank for a reason. It's not Guppy Tank. It's Shark Tank. So I got to be a shark. And so I started off with the 24-second clock. And then there was like, no, you use that too much. And then I'm like, okay, you coming with me? Fine. If not, fine too, but I'm out. And then everybody freaks out and it increases the drama and all that. So that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. And then the second one I had is, did you ever have anybody, because you thankfully are one of the people that are so, I see you irked whenever they get too cheesy, because there are some really cheesy pitches that come your way. I almost equate it to kind of like the American Idol, where they bring in the
crazy ones. Yeah.
Right. But even not just the crazy ones, where has anyone made the colossal mistake of pitching you something outside of the show, where they use the cadence? So who wants the
Of course. And I won't sit for pitches or anything like that. I'm like, you send me an email, I'm going to go through the first paragraph, and if I'm interested, I'll respond. If not interested, you won't hear from me. And that's it.
That's kind of how you book the show. So it makes sense. Mark, thank you so much. I wish you nothing but the best. I really appreciate it. Once again, I want everyone to check out Shark Tank if you haven't. Friday nights on ABC, 8 p.m. Eastern. Even the Central people are in there, 7 p.m. Check it out. If you haven't watched it, it's so addicting. Absolutely. So,
and Mark, thanks for everything you've done for voters.
Thanks, Lori. Thank you guys as well. Keep up the podcast. I'm going to have to start watching more now.
Absolutely.
It's a great podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, this will be up tomorrow. I'll tweet it out. I'll tweet at you for it.
And also put it on LinkedIn if you can, because I'll get a better response on LinkedIn than Twitter, because people just give you shit on Twitter if I tweet it. Okay. But LinkedIn, I've got almost as many followers, and everybody's business oriented, so everybody pays attention.
Consider it done. I will. I got to pull a good clip. There's a lot of stuff here, so I got my work cut out for me.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks again, Mark.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And once again, everyone, I just want to remind you that was awesome, Mark.
Oh my God.
What a cool dude. So if you are listening to this, I want to remind you that there is a video element that I think is even better. You get to see Lori. So much me, you can put a piece of cardboard on one side of the screen, but you also get to see Lori and you get to see our guests. So, if you're only listening to this through the podcast feeds, go to thewholepodcast.com. Just click on the subscribe button. It's going to take you right to the YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And anytime there's something new, you get to hear it. And like I say every week, we got more surprises planned. Lori, is there anything you want to add to this?
I'm just thinking about all the surprises.
I know, just so many surprises. And as soon as I figure out what they are, you will know.
Yeah, that will be big.
We will tell you. Thank you for listening to The Whole. I am Rob Spratz.
And I'm Lori Levine.
Later, motherfucks.
Later, motherfucks.